flying in hot, coming in on two wheels.
Yep.
Emily Chenevert, State Representative Chenevert. I assume you're coming in real fast because you've been out lying to the people about Amendment 2. Is that
Right. Yeah.
what's going on today?
Quite the opposite. Right. As you can tell, Brian, my voice is a little hoarse this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I spoke somewhere yesterday. Great meeting. I've been on the phone, text messages, so many conversations this week. So many conversations.
I would imagine. Are they productive though?
Yes, I will say this. So look, as many as your listeners, we all know that tomorrow is a big vote across the state of Louisiana. Obviously, in my area, the city of St. George, we have elections. I think we'll have to praying and believing that everyone in St. George will be out to vote. And we're all asking for some great support for the amendments, but Amendment 2, because this is for all of us in Louisiana. We're trying to come in and really do some great work within tax policy. And it is complicated because the tax policy is complicated in Louisiana. People have talked about this for 40 to 50 years.
Yes.
How do we make it better for business, keep people here? So that's what we're talking about around the state.
I always ask, why is it 115 pages long? This is, Julie Emerson's bill from last session. And the answer is because we've had hundreds upon hundreds of amendments to this Constitution.
Right.
The constant, and I apologize for telling the same joke twice, but the Constitution today is to its original form what Darth Vader is to Anakin Skywalker. It's more machine than man. It's been morphed more than it originally was meant to be.
Look, what's interesting, so many times when we have amendments, I'll have people text and call me and say, hey, what is this? What are we doing? And I'm always happy to give people information on that, no matter what the amendment is. The thing is that it is complicated. It is, we have amended it over and over. And my question is, since the revisions, is our state getting better? Have we moved more to the top in business and in education and in every area?
Yep.
And so we are believing, and look, as new legislators, I'm going into my second year of my first term, but my fifth session, because we had so many sessions, which is unique. And so we are eager. We have lots of energy. A lot of us have young kids. A lot of us are, people are building businesses, and we want to make a state that we can live in, thrive in, where we're lowering taxes. Look, we did it in the tax session. We lowered it to a 3% flat income tax.
From 4.5 down to 3. Yep.
And that's where we're headed. And that's the goal of this. And so I want to encourage people, look, this has been out since November. I mean, I was looking at the other day in the retirement and the board of trustees that deals with these retirement counts for teachers, they came out in November, took a vote within their group to support this because they believed it was good for the teacher retirement and paying down some of this debt. So this isn't hidden. This isn't something that we're doing in a back room. This is the process. And people have been trying to work towards this for a long time. Look, we tried to do the idea of the Constitutional Convention, right? That was always been a discussion. And I'm supportive, but we've got to take these steps forward and vote yes. And let's continue to get in every year and tweak, because we've got to improve our state.
We could talk about a constitutional convention at some point. There's a lot on the docket for today. We're not going to get to it. But Amendment 2 does not undo the need for a constitutional convention. And I had Richard Nelson on, was yesterday or the day before, one of the two. I was trying to bait him into going off on that because I know that's one of his biggest soapboxes out there.
Yeah.
But what Amendment 2 does is it buys us time to continue to function at a reasonable level until we can get around to putting the right amount of time into a state constitution. And I can't help but notice, and I went off on this last hour, the most vocal opponent to Amendment 2 thus far has been, and I don't know what you've heard, but what I've heard, the most vocal opponent thus far has been Woody Jenkins. He helped write the 1974 Constitution.
Correct.
Why are we still listening to anybody who wrote the 1974 Constitution? From 1974 to today, we've done nothing but get worse. Well, with the exception of Cade Brumley bumping us up on the educational charts, we've done nothing but get worse. And I'm not blaming Woody Jenkins for any of our problems.
Correct.
But why would we listen to anybody who was in that room?
Right. Look, you mentioned, Dr. Cade Brumley, and I like to use that as an example. It takes a lot of bold change, innovative ideas, going back to this idea of the basics. Obviously, we looked at the literacy, all of those things. And so I think we look at that as a model and say, okay, we're going to have to do this in other areas. And like the 1974 Constitution, the end of the day, most people, when you look at this, it ties our hands in a way, in so many ways, if we're dealing with budgeting, it ties our hands with some of these dedicated funds, which I am for. We are actually increasing one of our funds for savings up with this passage would increase it to 7.5%. It's at 4% of our revenues that come in. We're actually going to be increasing one of these funds and moving money over where it's going to reach that 7.5% stance pretty quick. So we're not like depleting everything and just saying we're not going to have any savings. I mean, I've seen some crazy stuff. I feel like on in comments and some understanding. And so, look, all of us that are in there, and I say this, and so for people that don't know me, look, I was not in politics. No one in my family had run for office. It was one of those things where you want to get in and you want to get into the grind of what can we do better? What can we make? I know nothing's going to be perfect. We're not going to do the perfect, like every bill, every piece of policy, but that's what I love about being in the process. You're in it, you're discussing it, you're tweaking it. And I feel such great energy in talking to colleagues. I've been with them all week on conversations. And I mean, they are in it. They are committed to this. It's not just pass this and we're done. It's pass this and keep moving.
But you're not fighting over the current, what's on the ballot. You're fighting on what's on the ballot plus 50 years worth of distrust in government.
That's right. That's right. And that's hard.
And this is going back to what I was talking about last hour was we elected an overwhelmingly huge freshman class in 2023.
Yes.
It is a class that is energetic. It is a class that is bright. It is a class that proved last year throughout the year. Like you said, 4 sessions last year prove that you want to work for Louisiana. And when it comes time to put a little trust back into those who have said they want to work, I'm of the opinion, like, let's let y'all cook.
Right. And look, I always say all the time, my husband and I talk about this. I ran because you see things in government and you're frustrated, right? You see things that you come out of the COVID years, you come out of these years like, man, what is happening in government overreach? And so I feel the same as I was telling my constituents, I'm with you. And so I'm always careful. Hey, trust. I'm like, work with us because we're putting this to the vote of the people. We want to work with you. We want to keep bringing your taxes down. We want to get to could Louisiana get to a 0% income tax? A tax that just by getting up every day, you're taxed. Just by getting up and going to work every day, you get taxed.
Right.
What can we do to bring that down? We're on this path that we're trying to do. And you're looking at this fund, these funds. The reason is sometimes it's complicated and long because when we are moving one thing in tax policy, it's impacting something else. So you're constantly tweaking and fixing. And so we are on that path, and we're trying to get there. Because here's the other thing, Brian, we can't forget that we are competing with other states. Other states right now, they've gone to 0% income tax. They're lowering taxes across the board. They're doing great work. If we don't do something, then people will keep leaving. People will keep going somewhere else. We're not going to leave. Our kids will not stay here.
Correct.
That's our goal.
Yes. We look at this in a vacuum and not look at it in not just states that have gone to 0 income tax, states that are going to 0 income tax. Like, I don't know, our neighbors in Mississippi.
Right.
If you look around us right now, you've got Texas is already there. Mississippi's on its way. And I believe Arkansas is on its way as well. So
there's a lot of states like that. And I want to say it's not even just the income tax. It's other issues we know. We've got lots of things, but this is about we're moving a step forward in the right direction, keeping our state going forward. We're seeing some great announcements of businesses coming here. The state has seen that over the last few weeks. Let's keep going that direction versus halting it. And so I would encourage people to vote yes on this so that we can keep doing this and move our state forward.
I don't know if I've ever been like passionately in favor of an amendment before. Like that.
Well, I'm glad. As you can tell, I'm passionate about it.
Yes, very much so. But I mean, everyone I've talked to about this who has been in the room, who's in the state capitol, everybody who's talked about this, who is a stakeholder in this is like, this is how we start to fix the problem. But we can't fix the problem unless we're given permission to fix the problem.
Right.
And that's where we're stuck right now.
Right.
Is those who want to find the smallest reason, those who want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
Right. We talk about that a lot. Right.
Yeah.
There's a perfect in the good. And so, but and there's been a lot of discussions too about the churches and
can we get into that?
Happy to. And look, and I tell people all the time, I am such a massive proponent of the local church, been a part of it since I was a little girl, believe in the local church and know that it's incredible impact in our community. There has been information out there that we are just, if this were to pass, that churches are going to lose their tax property. They're going to be taxed all of a sudden their property. That could not be further from the truth, Brian.
Well, let's read the exact verbiage.
Read it.
Okay, here we go.
Read it right here.
Property owned by a nonprofit operated exclusively for religious purposes as a house of worship, residential housing for clergy, priests, or nuns, or a seminary or other educational institution training individuals for religious ministry shall be exempt from ad valorem tax pursuant to this section.
That's correct.
Now, I think the hang up here, there's one word hang up. Exclusively.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
So a nonprofit property operated exclusively for religious purposes. So if I have a church, if my church, that I can make the argument that that's not even exclusive for worship.
Well, I mean, right. And I would tell you this too, is that what's interesting is I think it's very important when it says property owned by.
Right.
And I think I don't ever hear people mention that much, like property owned by a church used for religious purposes. Right. And in these conversations early on in that, so I'm like, man, property owned by, you got churches that houses of worship, everything my church does is for religious purposes.
Well,
right.
Hang on.
And
if I go to mass at Our Lady of Mercy on Sunday, and I get there a couple minutes early, and I decide that I've already read the readings for today, and I'm waiting for mass to start, I'm gonna go ahead and open my email. Well, now I'm not there exclusively for religious worship, am I?
Well, I mean, you can have a conversation in a parking lot, right?
Right. That's my point. If we want to nitpick and break it apart, I can do that with anything out there.
You could, I mean, and that's the thing is we're nitpicking a thing to where everyone's freaking out about this idea that we're taxing churches all of a sudden, and we're not taxing churches.
Right.
And when this was written, I want to be very clear on this. There were people at the table, and I know there's a video that I've seen going around too, where that at the table discussing this amendment. After this, they're sitting there saying the churches are like, we have some concerns. And then the author of the bill, which incredible woman who has been working incredibly hard, Chairwoman Julie Emerson, she even said in her op-ed talking about how we want to make sure that we agreed that the churches are different than the typical nonprofit, that we want to make sure that religious liberties are protected. And so in those conversations, like, no, it needs to stay in the Constitution. And she met with stakeholders and church leaders in those moments. They agreed on the language that they represented hundreds of churches across Louisiana. And so that's one of those things when we look at, I feel like we go back to this enemy of the, like we're,
Don't let the perfect be the enemy of the
good. And so we're not taxing churches. And then still, Brian, to be honest, we've got the protections also of other buildings and the nonprofits in statute. Yes. And it is not a flippant vote, no matter how people have made this out to be a 2/3 vote on the House floor. We're not going in there with the intent to tax churches. It's not the intent. It's not the goal. And I've even heard people say, like, man, again, we're in session every year. We will constantly fix and tweak. But I will tell you this, churches, people that are in that house, I have seen, and one thing is very surprising. We may disagree on policy, but we may go to different houses of worship on Sunday, but we believe in the church. The Catholics, the Baptists, Pentecostals, non-denominational. We may not all agree on everything, but we know in this state that the church matters. And I'm committed to that as well.
There's a cynical side of me that says that the argument that y'all want to tax churches is nothing but a fear-mongering argument to pass the collection plate. I hesitate to say that right here, and I'm not even naming a single church. I'm not naming a single pastor out there. But if you could drum up some more dollars in the collection plate by creating an amount of fear, then by golly, we're going to do that. I don't want that to be the argument.
Well, and I understand. Yeah, I agree with you.
And that's me saying that.
No, I get it.
Not you saying that. That's my own. I'm digging my hole on this one. Because at the end of the day, whether it's constitutionally protected or it's in statute, a 2/3 vote, you're never going to get to a 2/3 vote because that's political suicide.
Political suicide. Imagine having 70 people on the House floor that all of a sudden everyone turned their back on the church.
Right.
I mean, this is what I tell people too as well.
Didn't y'all just vote the 10 Commandments up on our walls?
Well, it's right.
Jeff Landry, I stole that from the governor. He used that line at the Rotary Club on Wednesday.
Did he?
Yep.
And look, and here's the thing: IRS protections are not in the United States Constitution; they are in statute. They're in statute as well. And here's the thing: it's crazy and wild as DC has gotten, and sometimes far removed from the pleadings and the hearts and what's going on in the state. Even they haven't gotten to that point. And so here's the thing: it is political suicide. We at the legislature will continue to protect the rights of churches. We're committed to that. I am committed to that. But no one is losing. Be very clear. This passes. They're not losing their property tax status. And so again, you say nonprofits are protected in statute. There's still high threshold in that. They're not, and so I think that's something that we have to make sure. And again, in those debates, people can come to committee, people can have these conversations with legislators. We're all doing it now. But we want to make sure that we're voting yes, we're moving our state forward in this. And look, we're looking at most state constitutions are in alignment with what we're doing right now once we were comparing across the country. A lot
We're
there.
just going to find reasons to stay mired where we've been. It's just, in the meanwhile, there's 3 other amendments on the ballot
Yes, there
tomorrow.
are.
We didn't touch on any of them. St. George is looking for a school district. We didn't touch on that. There's a whole legislative session. We're already 3 minutes past news.
I'm so sorry. Hey, look, we can come back on and we can do something else. Another segment.
When they say we in radio, when we say we have a hard break, blew right past it, and I don't care. I'm not even apologetic.
And I didn't get to tell you my gator story. We'll have to say that for next time.
No, can you squeeze it in 60 seconds?
Really quick, on a movie set, got challenged. We had live gators on set one day, and as a UPM, I was challenged as my stunt coordinators that have alligators for pets. By the way, I heard that conversation. They challenged me and said, "Hey, we're going to get the gator out. Come sit on the gator. Can you handle a gator?" Don't give me a challenge. Sat on a live gator. They basically pull away. I'm sitting on this gator, and he starts hissing, and the tail starts moving. So then I hopped off real quick. His mouth was taped. His mouth was taped.
Okay,
but still.
It's still
kind of intense.
It's a big animal.
Hey, a little intense, right? Don't give me a challenge because I may take it.
Oh, love it. I love it. She's State Representative Emily Chenevert. Okay, we got to get you back on like within the next week or so. I need the legislative preview. So
happy to do it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks for confirming why I'm fired up. And we got a break. We're so long here.